So, James, take us back to the start, the moment of your injury. Mm-hmm. How did that feel, and did you ever think it would lead to the creation of Proto-col?
Well, honestly, Holly, no, I didn't see Proto-col coming along at that point in time. Where was the accident, or the injury rather? It was Bath University, home straight of the running track there, where the current World Championships is being competed this week. What happened? Well, it was a very cold Saturday morning, February. If you can imagine, I'm out there with my boys, my squad. There's about 7 or 8 of us. We're doing a track session, and it's led by a dear friend of mine, Christian Rodat, who is one of the most highly acclaimed modern pentathlon coaches in the world. He's also a really good friend of mine. And just the night before, we were having a nice steak dinner and a bottle of red wine. And he was talking about my future and how much more longevity I had in the sport. I knew I was coming to the end of my career as a captain of the squad. I was the oldest man on the squad by about 4 years. Anyway, long story short, we were pushing really hard on the track, and I pushed just that little bit too hard, and I ruptured my right Achilles tendon at that point in time. And it was literally, I mean, for those people at home who've maybe watching this who have done it before, they'll know the shit agony. It's somebody taking a carving knife to the back of your heel and slicing it through. I knew instantly something was really bad. Luckily, the tendon was a partial rupture. So it's imagine like tearing through a piece of paper, but only half tearing through. But it was significant enough to know, for me, that was the end of my elite campaign towards the Olympic Games in 2004. It was potentially career ending. And the question was, would I ever compete again? You know, the guys were awesome. I screamed, clearly. It was a lot of pain. They ran back, picked me up, and literally carried me into the doctors at Bath University. The amazing medical setup there. And Dr. Rob saw me. I was scanned within about 20 minutes. And basically, you saw on the screen this ruptured tendon where all the fibers had broken and snapped. And he was very frank with me and said, James, this is pretty much the end of your season. We're thinking somewhere between 12 to 14 weeks before you can even start thinking about rehabilitation and coming back to recovery and rehab training. That's going to take you from February right through to mid-season, end of season, before you even start again. And reality is that was a check in time, which was going to be far too much. It was game over. So to put that into context, how it felt and the emotions for me, it was like reading an incredible biography or a novel. And you get to the very last chapter and you put your book down for a minute, and somebody nasty's picked up that book, taken the entire last chapter and ripped it out and thrown it away. So you can never complete the story.
Yeah.
For me, it left me empty. I didn't know what to do. I was a personal trainer, and that's how I funded my sporting career. I was teaching fitness maybe 7, 8, 9, 10 hours a week, so I could train 30 hours a week, and that's how I was funding.
Yeah.
So for me, it was devastating because instantly I realised I'd lost my income. I'd lost my sport that I'd been involved in since the age of 14, and it was the end of an Olympic dream.
Yeah.
And that was it.
And then you were introduced to collagen.
Yeah, I was very fortunate. For the whole of my pentathlon career, I had what I call a big brother. And that big brother was a teammate of mine for many, many years. We actually competed against each other at national level and together as a team at international level. And that gentleman is called Professor Greg White. He's now been given an OBE by the Queen for services to sport and to charity. And Greg is probably the most qualified exercise physiologist on the planet. He was responsible for setting up the English Institute of Sports, drug testing, the informed sports registration. You see on some of our brands and our products. But he headed up 3 Olympic cycles as physiologist. Multiple, he was a double Olympian himself, an incredible athlete, an incredible friend and teammate. And it was Greg I turned to in the early days and said, look, this is what's happened. And it was literally the phone call when I got home. Greg, what do I do? And he was very forthright. He explained to me that basically a ruptured tendon was a tear in the connective tissue. It was the collagen fibers had ripped through in this connective tissue, and that the normal process or procedure for an elite athlete at a young part in their career, or a professional athlete as like a footballer who've got lots of money and a big team behind them, would be a operation. And interestingly enough, there was a very famous footballer, David Beckham, who had the exact same injury as what I'd sustained some month later. And they actually flew him to Finland and they re-stitched his Achilles. They actually sewed it together. Nowadays, there's a technology, they actually replace the Achilles with fibre. For me at the time, our association didn't have the money. I didn't have the money.
Yeah.
It was game over. But Greg said to me, well, look, this collagen rupture, I've started reading about this supplementation or this product, because at the time, collagen didn't exist on the market at all, not a single brand. And he said, look, I know the doctor, so we can reach out to the doctor who's behind the development of this product and you can have a chat with him. So that's exactly what I did. Within a couple of hours, I was speaking to a gentleman called Dr. Stefan Osser, who was actually based in Germany, in Kiel. And Stefan was the research institute director who was looking at this incredible supplementation, this powder, white powder called collagen hydrolysate, that hadn't been taken to market, hadn't been turned into a retail product, but was just coming into testing. And I turned around to Stefan and said, look, I've got nothing to lose here. Any which way, it's the end of my career. I could use this product and recover, get drugs tested, I'm banned, and that's my career in tatters and my reputation in tatters. I could use this product and potentially recover, or I could not use this product and it's game over. So I had very limited options to me, but that's where it started. And the conversation went on with Dr. Stefan, and literally within 48 hours of sustaining the injury, I got a bag of white powder through the post. And you can imagine my next call to Greg was, what do I do with this stuff? How much? Yeah. Where do I take it? How do I take it? Do I sniff this stuff? It was incredible. He said, whatever you do, don't sniff it. Eat it. So I'm like, how much? He said, I have absolutely no idea, James. Right. So I just started shoveling collagen. I was taking about 50 grams a day. Really? It's huge amounts, massive amounts from what we understand now as far as performance. But I was one of those, I guess, miracle athletes, because I returned to training on day 23 post-injury. Wow. And I can remember my coach, Christian Rudat, I walked up to him, I was still limping, don't get me wrong, I wasn't fully recovered, but I could start rehab. Yeah. And I limped up to Christian on the pool side because I could start with the swim nice and easy. And Christian was just staring at me. And I'm like, Coach, I'm ready to go. And he's like, oh. What are you looking at? He said, your skin is so much better. What have you been doing? You just spent like 3 weeks in a beauty salon. And literally, it was that moment. Really? It was on poolside at Bath University that the light bulb went on. I went, this product's incredible. And did you know it had those benefits before you were taking it? No. I mean, I did a bit of research into roller collagen briefly when Greg said, it's the collagen fibers that rips. So what's collagen? And I was under the impression that collagen was, at the time, it was an injectable. It was early ideas of fillers. This is going back 20 years ago, remember. There's now technology and skincare has moved on dramatically. I'd heard of collagen in creams, but I had no idea you could eat it. Well, you couldn't eat it at the time. We were literally the first brand to market, to my knowledge, anywhere in the world, bar none. Wow, that is insane. It's crazy. That is crazy. So transforming a personal experience into a business, it's not an everyday decision. No. What inspired you to turn your personal experience with collagen into Proto-col? I'm going to be honest with you. Proto-col is one of the biggest collagen supplement beauty brands globally now. I think we're in 15, 20 countries available, and we've got another 6 coming online in the next month, maybe even 7. It wasn't anything about beauty that inspired me. My first initial thought was, I've got this incredible product that's helped me recover, and there's nothing like it on the marketplace. What if I could create this product that was tested properly, so we knew the athletes could utilize it? I was actually going to supply this to my friends and my colleagues and other athletes, because there's lots of athletes in this country who get injured on a daily basis. We've seen that through, the brands we have now with You Perform, and a need to recover. So my initial instinct was like, I want to help people. And if there's a potential making a little bit of money to help my lifestyle out of this, because remember, I couldn't teach aerobics at that point in time. I didn't dare come back to step or aerobics or boxercise, or, I was doing a bit of personal training to keep the pennies coming in, but it was hand to mouth, it really was, at that point in time. So when I first brought out my first product, it wasn't targeted at the beauty industry at all. It was targeted at the sports industry. It was actually called Proto-col Collagen Active.
Right, okay. Not the Proto-col we know today.
No, not the beauty capsules. So that's that came down the line.
Yeah, of course. So those early days, working from your back bedroom, what challenges did you face?
Well, I had no money. I was really fortunate that, and this is what we don't see nowadays with like yourself, the housing market was booming. Yeah. My dad, bless his heart, God rest his soul, was an amazingly clever man. He was an amazing entrepreneur, and I learned a lot, and he'd helped me set up. So my first thoughts of how do I develop a brand? First of all, I had no idea what the name was going to be. I had no idea how to build websites. I had no idea on branding and design. I just had a concept. It was simply that. I just knew I had a product. I knew I could educate. I have nutritional qualifications as part of my personal trainer, and my interest in nutrition. So I'd done nutritional qualifications. I'd learned about green foods. I'd learned about diet nutrition to improve my performance as an athlete. So I took all that, and then I realized that there was an opportunity here. The biggest problem was money. So I did an analysis, not even a SWOT analysis, as we all know in business now, you do strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I just did an analysis and said, right, okay, I need to produce a product. I need to produce a website. I need branding. I need a brochure. I need a concept. I need marketing. How much money do I need to launch? And that was it. I bundled it all together. And it was then that it gets really interesting, because what I did to raise that money was damn right scary. And I know, as one of my team here, and many of my team have come and gone over the last 20 years, have no understanding of how I actually launched On Group, or Proto-col as it was. So I took my 3 credit cards that I had, and I hammered them. I took as much money out of the bank as I possibly could. Maxed every single card out, and I raised across the 3 cards about £20,000. I then went to my dear friend Stuart Marshall, who'd been my bank manager for many, many years at that point in time, whilst I was running my tiny little fitness company. And I said, Stuart, I got this idea. And after he finished laughing at me, he said, look, we can do an equity release on your home up to a certain point. So I raised another £45,000 against my home. So I was up to £65,000. I knew I needed to get somewhere around about 100,000 or thereabouts. At that point, the bank said no more. That's much risk we would take. I couldn't get any more monies for cards, loan sharks and things like that, which is stupid. So the only option I had was to turn to my dad, who was a really clever entrepreneur. He'd been in business years. He'd got a chain of china and crystal retail shops selling things like Waterford, Wedgwood, Royal Dalton, 160 staff, 26 outlets, multi-million turnover. Dad's approach, he'd supported me, he'd sponsored me right up to the point of 21 years old. Yeah. When I got to 21 as a senior athlete out of the junior ranks, he turned around to me and said, you're on your own, that's it, game over. At the point in time I approached him, his company Hadley was on the way down. His health was really poor. He had been wrapping it up, he'd been selling off shops. So, it was a significant decision whether or not he should back me. And I was asking for £40,000 on a man that was getting iller, more and more ill day by day. I know now that I only had 7 years left with him. He was getting really bad and sick. But we have an immense amount of love in my family. So I said to Dad, look, this is my business plan. This is my idea. This is my concept. I'm 40 grand short. Will you lend me £40,000? And he said, yes, on the understanding that you come and present your business plan, not just to me, because I'm your dad and I'm likely to say yes, but you present to me and a dear friend of mine who brought in, it was Ian Gibson, who at the time was one of the senior presidents of St. James's Place, which is a major financial institute. And he said, if Ian approves your business plan, I'll lend you the money. So I went away and wrote my business plan and came back and presented in a formal business meeting to Ian and Dad my idea, my concept, what I was going to do. And at the end of that, they just started smiling at each other. And I thought, well, I've nailed this. This is cool. Yeah, he's going to say yes. And they turned around to me and said, great business plan. And actually, Ian said to me, he said, James, I've overseen a lot of the Virgin enterprises. And your business plan's better than a lot of the Virgin plans, which is great. Having said that, you've miscalculated. Well, I said, no, I've done my maths properly. I'm good at this. And he said, no, you're 20% off. How can I be 20% off? That's massive. Yeah, that's huge. He said, well, if you do what you say you're going to do, you're going to have to go VAT registered. And at that time, VAT was 20%.
Yeah.
And it threw everything. Yeah. So Dad said to me, tell you what, go and do your maths again. Take into account VAT. Remember, you can claim it and you have to pay it out. Go and do your maths again. Come back in 2 weeks. So I came back and represented the business plan with VAT. And the gentleman looked at each other. And Dad turned around to me and said, yes, fine, James, I'm gonna give you £40,000. However, I want 20% of your company and your payment is £2,000 a month and your interest I'm charging you is 2% above the base rate of the Bank of England month on month, which is pretty dragon-ish and scary because it was a huge repayment, a huge risk. And he said, if you're prepared to take that risk, you're prepared to give 20% of your company away, I'm prepared to loan you the money. So that's what I did. I gave 20% of On Group away. I took on the interest. I borrowed the money and I got to work.
Wow. It seems like your dad was such a significant role in those early days. Have you got any memories that you share which you hold really close to your heart?
Yeah, for sure. Do you know, it's really interesting because me and Dad, we're still close. He's not with us, but we're still close. And as Dad wound up his company and had more and more free time, although he was getting more and more ill, he could see that I was actually moving forwards. And the interesting thing is the way I paid Dad back was to work and graft. Now, I didn't know an awful lot about collagen at the time. I didn't know about the beauty industry. I didn't know an awful lot about business, but I did know that I was fitter than most business people in the country because I'd just come off 20 years of being an elite athlete. So we went to shows. We did shows and exhibitions, everything from county fairs and the ploughing show in Wales, right through to things like the Royal Berkshire Show. And I just grafted. I mean, I borrowed my dad's van for the company. We were taking our products in vans. We were setting up at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning, setting up our stands in these marquees. We were trading, we were selling. I was packing down at 6 o'clock at night. I was driving across the whole of the country, sleeping in the back of the van, setting up again 7 o'clock in the morning in Norfolk from having driven from North Cornwall and doing it all again. I just kept going, I kept pushing. And it was actually during a show, we were actually doing the Vitality show in London when I got my real first break. And I was paying my dad back and I was hitting my times. And I think I was about 5 months into paying him back and I was hitting the £2,000 a month for payment plus the interest and paying him back. And we rocked up to the Vitality show and it was just like a different level. There was lots of people there. It was a 4-day show. It was the biggest spend I'd ever done. I think it was like £3,000 to have the stand, which of course is nothing. It gives you about 4 meters, 5 meters. And by that time, we developed a few more products. We had a mask, we had a moisturizer, and we had a hand scrub. And I found the hand scrub was a great way of pulling people into getting them noticed there. Then they were like, oh, this is very nice. This is very interesting. What else do you do? And I was telling them about collagen. And, you know, the collagen was hard sell because nobody ever heard of collagen. Yeah. You know, so I had to do a whole 40-minute education on nutrition for them to say, oh, I'll give that a go. whereas the other products were easy. But I met this young lady and we're doing the hand scrub and what have you. And she said, well, that's really nice. I said, yeah. And she said, what else do you do? I said, we'll do the collagen. I told her a bit about my story. And she said, this is great. We'll give that a go. And I said, what do you mean we'll give that a go? Do you own a salon? She said, no, I'm the buyer for Ideal World Television. We'll give you a go. When can you come up? And literally I went live in July of 2004. So 9 months effectively 10 months after launching the company. Yeah. And it was a game changer. It was scary money.
Yeah.
Risk was enormous. And the reward was just incredible.
Yeah.
And it's at that point in time, Dad said to me, you're turning over this type of money. You need to run proper business. You need proper cash flow, proper forecasting, proper budgets. And that was my first really important business lesson. So my business lesson as an entrepreneur to any entrepreneur, whether you're a one-man band or a global business, is to run a cash flow forecast. And that's why we have a whole team here of accountancy people, because it's so key important.
So important, yeah. So that Ideal World show, so you went on with hand scrubs, am I right in thinking?
That's right, yeah.
And they didn't perform as well as you thought that they were going to?
No, we were bombing, we were going down, because the hand scrub is a sensational touch, feel and smell, and it's a beautiful product, but how to get it across on TV, it's not smelling vision.
No, exactly,
it's
not field of vision.
Absolutely. So we were 45 minutes into the show.
Yeah.
I knew we had to turn over about £2,000 in the launch show just to be invited back. And we were at £400 in with 15 minutes left. And the presenter who launched the show with me was a lovely lady called Ellis Ward, and I'm still in contact with her even today. And she realised, she heard in her ear, it's bombing. And she turned around to me and literally said, well, James, it's a really lovely product. I'm going to buy one and this is fantastic, but what else do you do? And I said, well, we have collagen in a capsule. And she said, well, I've never heard of that. I said, well, you won't have, Ellis, because I'm the first person in the world to bring this to air. She said, well, how did you develop this? So I told them the story about being injured and repairing so quickly.
And this was all the way back in 2004.
2004.
So nobody had really heard of collagen.
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody had heard of collagen. There was no very limited science on collagen. The ASA and the guidance had never heard of collagen. So the European Food Standard Agency, who gives you the claims, never heard of it. I just told my story. And the phone lines lit up. Wow. And literally we did £2,000 turnover in the last 12 minutes of the show. Wow. We came off air with about 2,500 in the bank, 400 on the hand scrub, 2,000 on collagen capsules. And it literally, that last 15 minutes of Ideal World show was one of the most significant points in my business life over the last 20 years, because it was the point I got invited back.
How did that shift feel?
It was exciting. It was thrilling. I'm an exceptionally emotional person. As you probably pick up, I use emotions now in business. I use emotions in my sport especially. But to have that wow factor of, we just done £2,000 in 12 minutes, that's unheard of. It was a game changer. It was a deal maker for us. And I came off and I said to Alice, thank God you're here and you've asked me those questions. She said, James, it's gone great. They want you back in 3 weeks' time. I said, well, that's great. I've still got some more stock in the garage. That's fine. She's in the garage. I said, well, literally, we operate out of the garage. It's me, my cat. I've got somebody who comes in sort of a couple of hours a week and does my accounts. That's Kim. I've got a lady who basically does my designs and does my post designs. And basically, I called her the first director of the company. She was never really a director, but Saz, who's a dear friend of mine, even still now, and was with me for the first 5 proper years of On Group. But that was it, I used to go to the loo. I used to walk out the garage, walk into the home, go to the loo at home, make a cup of tea on the way back. And that's what we did. It was literally, a large single garage, and that's where it all started. But we got invited back after 3 weeks, and we had another show, which did about 5,000 turnover, and we focused on the collagen. Then a month later, they invited us back again and said, James, you've got something here. Let's do another show. Let's do a little bundle. So we put a 3-pack together. which was great. And I was getting really excited about this, but not forward thinking enough.
Yeah, living in the moment.
Living in the moment.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is great, because I knew I had a couple of thousand jars of collagen when I initially started off. My first ever production run with the company that still produce for us today. What I didn't realize was stock was coming down. Stock level was coming down significantly. I just saw lots of boxes. I didn't even think about it. We went live, and I think the third show did 15,000.
Wow, that's such a big shift.
It is a huge.
Yeah.
And then the fourth show, I believe, did about 22 to 25,000 pounds turnover in 57 minutes. And all of a sudden, everyone at Ideal World was talking about this athlete with this brand new product, which was turning the beauty industry and the beauty sales at Ideal World. It had been established for 7-8 years of creams and potions and lotions. This young athlete was turning the whole department on its head and making real waves. And they started calling me the golden boy, because everything I touched turned gold. And then the big one. That's when the buyer walked into me, Tanya walked into me, and she said, James, it's been so great. We want to do a pick of the day with you. And I said, that sounds great. Let's do it. What's the pick of the day? And she said, well, it's when we're going to go live over 24 hours, and you're going to get about 7 hours of live. And then my head was doing maths going, right, I've done 25,000 this hour. Okay, it's not walking stairs. Let's call it 20 times 700. Oh my God.
A lot of money.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So of course I said yes.
Yeah.
And then worried about the impact of that later. And I'm driving home from Peterborough, and I'm on the phone to Dad saying, Dad, it's gone really well again. It's like, this is great. I was superb. He said, how's your stock level? Because he was running cash flow. She wasn't running stock management. Right. And I said, I think you got loads of boxes. He said, they want a pick of the day. They said, that sounds great, James. When's that? He said, in about 2 months' time, what have you. Anyway, I got home and I was waiting for the order came through. And the units they wanted 4,000 units of a 3-pack of collagen and a moisturizer. So that's 12,000 jars of collagen. Now, my first production run was 2,000, of which it didn't all down. I had about 300 left in stock.
Right.
I had this significant problem of, how do I produce 12,000 units of collagen plus a little bit extra if I needed it, and the skincare, which I needed 4,000 units, and the production was 5,000 units. So I did the maths with Dad, and we looked at this, and I realised that I needed £100,000 worth of production cost.
Wow.
On top of what I'd already spent. And I'd been paying Dad back, but by this point, Dad had got progressively ill, and I just didn't want to ask him again. No. But I had a purchase order, right, which is significantly different from finger in the air, it may do. So I went back to my dear friend Stuart Marshall at Barclays and said, Stuart, I've got a bit of a problem, mate. And he said, what's that, James? He said, it's here. He said, that's a purchase order for over 100,000. I said, yeah, I know, it's significant. He said, okay, well, we'll give you the overdraft facility for that, because it's Ideal World and they're robust. Yeah. So he gave me an overdraft facility for 100 grand.
Wow.
Off the back of a piece of paper. The problem was, even with that and the money in the bank and what have you, he wanted some collateral. What happens if you don't sell that? So I signed the deeds to my house over to Barclays at that point in time, and said, well, I've paid down the borrowing, paid down the equity of the first time round, but all I've got to back this up as support is, this is the deeds to my house. Effectively, it's worth about £80,000. I'm bound to sell some. If I fall flat on my face and I don't hit my break-even target, which was about 3,000 something units, I said, I guess you get my house. And he said, that'll do nicely. Right. We went to production. We got our products sorted. Yeah. By this point, I couldn't manage it from the garage. We found a little fulfillment company in Bradford-on-Avon who could do all the pick, pack and send out for me. And I went back in. And luckily, the show was going live with somebody who was a brilliant presenter. And her name was Debbie Shaw. And for the older people out here who will maybe watch this, you remember Debbie because she was Jane from Rainbow, Rob, Jane and Freddie. And this is well before your day, I'm afraid.
I know Rainbow there.
Yeah, you have to Google. Yeah, she was Jane. So I used to tease her all the time, and she was really good looking. She was a good looking lady, but very good looking young blonde. Dad used to fancy her, something cruel. Anyway, so we went live for this pick of the day, and we went in, and it's a different launch. It was a 9:00 at night launch, and I got everything ready, and we came back in. I think it was about August, September, or maybe even slightly later in 2004. And I came in, and I was sat in the green room, and I was waiting, and Debbie came through, and she said, "James, are you okay?" And I said, "Honestly, I'm petrified." She said, "You're white as a sheet. Do you need some makeup?" I said, "Yeah, no, I'll be all right. I'll be all right once we get into it. Just, it's like a pre-race, just nervous." She said, "Why are you so nervous? You've done this 5-6 times already." She said, "Already?" I said, "I've risked my house on this one, Debbie." And she said, "You've done what? You fool." Anyway, she ran out the green room, and she went and found all the presenters that were in the building, some of which had already done shows with me on the accumulation. And in that launch show, every single presenter in the building walked on to the show live with me and Debbie, like you and me sat here, and did a personal testimony because I'd been giving them collagen.
Really?
And they all did a personal testimony. "I've been taking this from James. I've done a show of James. I've been taking this for 2 months. I've been taking this for 3 months. It is amazing." They all had positive results on it. It is amazing. Anyway, the launch hour was the launch hour. We went off, and I came back to the green room. And I just sat there. I just sat there numb. I didn't know the numbers. I didn't have talkback at the time, which I now use.
Right, yeah.
So you can hear the producer and director in your ear. So I just sat there numb. And Debbie came through, and you could see the tears running down her face. And I thought, "Oh, crap." Sorry, I shouldn't swear. But I literally thought, "Oh, crap, that's it. I've buggered it. I've lost my house." And she came through, and she was crying, and she just ran over to me and gave me a big hug. And she just said, "You've just broken every single record this channel has ever established." Ironically, 3 months later, we did another pick of the day with Debbie again. And I remember her shouting, standing up at the camera and screaming at the camera, "There's 300 people in allocation. Every single phone line is melting down. You have to get it now." I know our Idol World, unfortunately, has collapsed after 23 years being on air, and I was live with them for 19. But yeah, we did 360,000 turnover in 2 hours, which was the record for the show, and 9,100 units. So 27,000 units of collagen went out in 24 hours.
Wow.
It was scary. Luckily, I had my dad, had my back, and he was running cash flows, stock management, for overseeing everything at this point in time, because it just scaled up. And we went from back bedroom for 3 months, garage for 3 years, to Bradford-on-Avon, where we were for the best part of a decade, and went from me and the cat to a team of about 15 in Bradford-on-Avon, and where we are here now, a global brand with 30 plus staff, in Spain. And if we include our dedicated teams in South America, in Guatemala, El Salvador, Vietnam, you put all the staff and these guys only promote Proto-col. We're upwards of a team of 60 globally who just promote Proto-col.
That's crazy. When Debbie ran back in the room and told you that you weren't going to lose your house, how did you feel?
Well, after I stopped crying, the sense of relief was incredible. I mean, it was really amazing, that sensation of not just relief and recovery from the point where, okay, I've got my house, I can go home, sleep in my own bed, knowing that my home is going to be my home. But I think it was at that point the reality struck of, this is not a little brand anymore. This is a brand that could be world dominant. This is a brand that's going to do an awful lot of good, and we can help an awful lot of people. And for me, that is a fantastic way of earning a living. We've all got to earn a living. We've got to, we've got to pay our mortgages. And I'm no exception to that. I had a dream of having a family, being able to look after my wife, my partner, my family. And it was that moment the light went on. You know, I really can achieve this. This is something that's going to grow. I've got something really special here, and this is a game changer in the beauty industry.
Yeah. So you've always bounced back from setbacks, be it in business or sports.
Yeah.
What's the one thing that you always have in the back of the mind to maintain that resilience?
I think that's my superpower, to be honest with you. I am resilience, and I think I've learnt resilience from the sport of modern pentathlon, because there's no such thing as a perfect competition when you've got 5 different disciplines: running, swimming, shooting, fencing, and show jumping. And then in show jumping, you're on an unknown horse. You've never sat on it in your life. You get 20 minutes to warm it up and a couple of jumps, and then you go and show jump it over a course of 12 jumps, including doubles, triples, obstacles. And when you're at elite level, you're going up to 1.20 m high and 1.20 m wide. That's significantly big when you're on a horse you've never sat on. The point I'm making is that it's very rare you get the perfect fences, the perfect run, you know, the perfect swim, or definitely not the perfect ride. I think in all my years of modern pentathlon, I've probably ridden a really good, clear round on show jumping twice in hundreds and hundreds of modern pentathlons. But the thing about 5 sports, some up, some down, you have a good day on the fence, a bad day on the shoot, what have you, you learn resilience, you learn to bounce back, you learn to keep fighting. Yeah. You, as an athlete, you have to have dedication, you have to have determination. You have to be quite selfish, to be honest with you, Holly. And although I try to be seen as a very generous person, I like to give a lot, and, you know, my friends and my family and you guys, I'm sure, you know, as my team, appreciate my generosity. But I'm also quite selfish. I am focused, I'm narrow-minded, to the point where, not that I can't see the periphery, but when I dedicate myself to a goal, like I did when I decided to come out of retirement in 2012 and come back into the sport of modern pentathlon, or biathlon, run, swim, run, triathlon, shoot, swim, run, and then, of course, the full pentathlon in 2018 and 2019, pre-COVID, the blinkers went back on. I had a goal, I had an aim, I had a desire, and no one was going to get in my way and stopping me achieving that. You know, it was a point of, I saw this, even though at the time I'd had 10 years of being out of sport. I really enjoyed the beauty industry, and it's a fantastic industry. You know, I've been to everyone to pre-Oscars parties. I've been a judge and hosted a Miss Great Britain and Miss World. Over the years, it took its toll. And, you know, I put on weight. I got out of shape. And the irony of this, I was on television talking about my athletics and my sport and background. And I went from where I was as an elite athlete when I was about 10 stone 7, 10 stone 8 pounds to 10.5 stone. And I put on weight naturally, and then got up to about 13 stone. Now, put that in context, I'm now competing, I'm 10.5 stone today, you know. But what you learn from sport is resilience. And when I returned to sport again, the sport where I'm actually in my happy place, I love business, I love helping people, but I love sport. And it's not just being in the sport and competing and racing. I love winning. Yeah. And that's one of the things that keeps me motivated. I'm a good loser in respect, and I will shake my competitor's hand and tell him he's done a good job. But that motivates me to train harder, because I don't want to lose again.
Nobody likes losing.
Yeah, especially not me.
So, going back to Proto-col, in 2014, we launched in Spain, and then in 2015, Guatemala.
Yeah.
How has the addition of international distributors, like the ones from Spain and Guatemala, shaped the journey of Proto-col?
Do you know, it's been great because you're accessing a complete new marketplace that many people, you know, we assume, because it's so competitive here in the United Kingdom, here now, you know, some great brands out there. There's also a load of brands that are absolute rubbish, but there are some great brands in the marketplace. And everybody knows about collagen now, you know, because we're doing a great job, and the other brands out there that are doing a great job, you know, Revive, Absolute, and others, they're doing a great job. They got a product that they're taking to market, whether it's celebrity led and what have you. But we assume that the rest of the world has the knowledge of collagen that everyone here in Great Britain has, well, it's simply not true. No. you enter a new marketplace and you're almost starting again like I was in 2003. And if you're very fortunate, you can get on that wave and surf it right in. So expanding the marketplace to Spain, which is one of the countries I absolutely love. You know, I have a real passion for Spain and Spanish people. I had many great friends in the Spanish team as well. So it is a natural launch pad. But bringing on Marencho, who was working for the distributor at then, and then when the distributor unfortunately decided to step back, she took over on group office in Spain. And so she works for me as my team leader. And she's become a really good friend. She's somebody I depend on. So I let her run the business. I don't micromanage her. She knows the market. She knows best. And likewise, in 2015, I actually went to Guatemala. And I was chatting to Mario prior to going out there. But it was actually the World Championships in Guatemala in 2015. And I went all the way to Guatemala to compete. And it was actually the fact that Mario and his wife made an effort to turn up to the World Championships and cheer me on and support me. And it was at that point I realised that that's the man I want on my team. Yeah. He's going to put himself out on a weekend where he could spend the weekend with his family, but he's chosen to come and support me as a friend. And that's the lovely thing is some of our distributors globally, I don't know. I don't have a personal relationship with them. Yeah. You know, they can be very good customers. We've got Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. There, you know, I know the guys as names, but I don't know them as people. Vietnam, Guatemala, El Salvador, obviously, and Spain. These distributors who are in bed and part of our family, as well as part of our team, they've become really good, close, personal friends. And it's an absolute pleasure and an honour to support them on their journey with Proto-col.
Yeah. Moving forward to 2018, as you mentioned, you came out of retirement in 2012.
Yeah.
And then in 2018, you won a gold medal.
Yeah, I became world champion.
Yeah, so how did that feel, especially after everything you'd been through after your injury in 2003?
Do you know, it was amazing because that competition was actually in Egypt at the Red Sea, and the first title of world champion was not individual. It was actually mixed relay, which means I was competing over 40s. So it was an over 40s lady and an over 40s men, and they were the British number one in each age group. And that lady is a very, very dear friend of mine called Claire Forbes. She lives in Jersey. She is a podiatrist, and I went to school with her. So I'd known her since the age of 14, and she was a dear friend throughout the school years. And I pulled her into biathlon, and we competed again internationally as the team. And I'd started competing in 2013, and I'd been around the podium. I'd been a lot of fourth places, a lot of fifth places, and I'd won a few medals, but I'd never stood on the top. And it took me and Claire together as a team to break the duck. 5 years of training, maybe 50 kilometers a week running, which is what I normally do. I average about 10,000 meters in the water every week now. Even at the age of 51, I shoot 6 times. I do strength and conditioning. I show jump if I'm in pentathlon season and fence as well. But it took Claire to show me the way and show me and teach me how to win. And we won the team event. And we beat the dominant South African team who had won it, I think, for 6-7 years in a row. They basically rocked up saying, this is our title, we've just come to pick up the medals. And we took it to them and blasted them and absolutely destroyed them. And I'll be honest with you, Claire did most of the work because she goes first. She gave me a lead. And even though I was running scared from the current world champion, who was the South African male, who I knew was going to come at me, she'd give me such a significant lead. There was no way I was going to let her down. My friend of years. And we won that. And then the next day we went into the triathlon, the shoot swim run, which is now my specialist event. And actually my gun broke as I went onto the competition range. So I had to borrow a gun from the Egyptian Federation just so I could even compete. So I was sighting in my gun, getting used to the gun as the competition went through. And I worked my way back from 24th, 25th in the race after the first lap, after the first shoot, slowly running and swimming myself through the pack and learning with the gun and learning where to point and squeeze, and slowly worked through the field right to the point where it was only in the very, very last lap that I came out of the water in the lead. with literally a 600 meters to run with the current world champion once again, this time on my heels, breathing down my neck. And I remember saying to myself that if I die, I'm winning. And that was it. I went and I ran the whole 600 as if it was the last thing I was going to do on this planet. It was either win or die. So I gave it everything. And after I come through the line, I was down the sand for about 15 minutes. I basically exploded my chest. You know, I tolerated a heart rate which was just ridiculous. And, you know, for someone who in that age group, should never, I wanted it so bad. I just chose to win. And then from that, the World Championship titles have come thick and fast, and the European titles. I remember that moment coming through the line. You can see it means so much to me. So
yeah, I can tell.
Yeah.
You mentioned not wanting to let Claire down, and you've mentioned not wanting to let your dad down. Where do you think that comes from?
I think it comes from your upbringing, to be honest with you. I think for me and my family, it was family first. My mum, who's with us, and my dad, we were about the family unit. My brother as well. We are very strong together. And although dad's no longer with us, we were brought up with a number of different philosophies that we bring into our life. The number of times when I was a young man that I would have screamed at my dad because he used to say, James, if a job's worth doing, it's worth doing well. And it's only when you get into later life and business do you actually understand that. So I do get very annoyed with people who, in the team, you know, who do, oh, that's good enough. No, it's not good enough. If you're going to do it properly, or don't bother doing it at all. And I learnt that from Dad. And I learnt a really good saying from a very dear friend of mine who actually works in the company now. And that is, care about those who care about you. And why is that poignant? It's very, very simplistic that, you know, there's a lot of people in this world, millions and billions of people, but you can impact the journey, the path of just a few. So look after those who put themselves out for you. People who care about you, make sure you care about them. And that's why one of my philosophies in business has been, where at all possible, don't make people redundant. Don't sack people, you know, educate them, work with them, coach them, help them, mentor them. Don't drop people. And that's why when COVID came along, and we were really up against it as a company, we really didn't understand. We didn't know if we were all going to be dead the next day type thing. But, you know, I stuck by my entire team and kept them all locked on.
Yeah. So throughout all your highs and lows, what has been your most proudest moment in this 20-year journey?
As a businessman, I think there's been a few significant moments that are really amazing for me. One was the moment we walked into Proto-col Park, this incredible building where we are now.
Proto-col HQ.
Proto-col HQ, yeah, or On Group Park, whatever we want to call it. It's our building, you know. It's a very significant, large building, which we bought. We don't rent. We bought it outright. And at that point in time in 2017, I just thought, crikey, do you know what? This is amazing, this place. You know, it didn't look anything like what it does now because we've branded it, we've decorated, we've taken down walls and put them back up and taken them down again, put them back up again. I think we've had TV studio in 5 different locations in this this building. But that was significant. That was quite amazing. But you only do things when you take that gamble, a bit like risking my house. You know, I don't really want to risk my house anymore, you know, because of obvious reasons. But there comes a time when you go, am I prepared to take a gamble? And what's the next gamble? It was a gamble taking what was the Proto-col range and branching it out and taking the sports range and saying, let's make a brand.
Yeah.
You perform. It's a gamble that's paid off.
Yeah. It's
a gamble for us looking at another brand for collagen peptides for cats, dogs and horses. You know, it takes significant money to step up a brand. Yeah. We've got brand new ideas and concepts for On Group in the offing. You know, we're launching a new brand this week.
Can you tell us anything about these new brands, ventures?
The new brand we launched this week is called New Me, and it's a supplement brand. So it can cover all things collagen, but can also cover all things well-being. So everything from weight management right through to vitamin D and omegas. It has an opportunity to go far wider as a supplement range than Proto-col is, because Proto-col is about collagen, as you know. So that's coming live. And then we've worked on a really incredible skincare range called Derma Miracle, which will be launching, we hope, in January. All the work and the compatibility and stability is all done now. So so hopefully we launch that one in January. Mm-hmm. And then we have a few other projects along the way that are really fun and exciting.
Yeah, amazing. What has been your proudest personal moments in the past 20 years? So we spoke about business.
It's all about sport.
Yeah.
For me, outside of family, which, as you know, I'm a very private person, so you'll never see my brothers, my family, my brother, my family, my partner. You'll never see her on Instagram. You never see her on Facebook. It's not something I do. It's personal life, and I keep my personal life personal. But my proudest moments as an athlete outside of business, outside of family, is winning the world championships in triathlon, coming back and being the first man in the world ever to defend the title the following year in 2019. Then, of course, 2020, COVID hit. And at that point, we didn't know if there was ever going to be a world championships again. And we all recycled back into our homes and our bubbles and what have you. And then as it started to relax, I made the decision that even though the pools were closed, I was going to do absolutely everything I physically could in my power, not only just to come back and be a good athlete, but actually come back and be a legend. I wanted to take my position as a master, and I am a master, I'm over 40s, over 50s. I didn't want to be known as a good master or James that won the world title. I wanted to be known as James, who is the most successful masters athlete in modern pentathlon in history, bar none. And now I'm 4 world titles in, and I'm tied. So we go again in 10 weeks' time.
And what's the next 10 weeks going to look like for you?
A lot of hard work.
Yeah.
This week I've already done 3 early morning swim sessions back to back. I'm pushing to the point where I'm at breaking point this morning. I literally have to go as hard as I did as an elite athlete. I'm running 50 plus K a week. I'm swimming 10,000 meters a week, but it's changing. It's getting faster. It's getting stronger. I have a great coach in Richard Smith. He is pushing me right to the point of breaking, but without taking it over. Yeah. So next 10 weeks is all going to be about hard work in business, hard work in sport. I'm at the same weight now as an athlete that I was in 1994 when I became a senior athlete, elite athlete for the first time. And now it's about how fast can I become. I don't want to go to Bali with a risk factor. I got to go with all the confidence in the world. I'm eating properly. The fun things in life, red wine, is down to a night or two a week of a glass or two. I'm training correctly. I'm sleeping properly. I'm taking all my collagen. I'm taking every single supplement I have in my range, with the green foods, the red foods, the vitamin D. I'm doing everything right because my desire to win my 5th world title is larger than anything. The hunger is there. The passion is there. I want the title.
Amazing. Final question. So you've gone through so much and achieved so much in the past 20 years. Do you think your dad would be proud of everything you've achieved in business and sport and your personal life? Yeah,
he's looking down, proud as punch. He really is. I think with the developments in my family and my brother's family as well, we got little ones. My brother had a little one a couple of months ago, and he's looking down and he sees what we've built. He sees the team, he sees the global growth, he sees the new ideas that I'm working on now with taking things to even the next level. And the projects we're working on now are they're kind of top secret, but the world will know very, very quickly. But he's looking down, and I think he's immensely proud of me. But I'm a big believer in angels, and I think he's looking down and he guides me in the right direction. We made a few changes in the business model this year when we jumped from Ideal World, who we've been with for 19 years, a great partner, and we jumped to QVC. And I think it was a little nudge here and there that made that jump, because it was a big risk. 19 years banking to jump to QVC was a risk factor, because we could have gone live and come off. That could have been it. He's looking down proud. He's looking down as my angel, my guardian. Yeah. And hopefully, he'll continue to guide me and my family for years to come.
Yeah, I agree.